Okay, guys, welcome back to Formula One News with a big update today. The teams, the FIA, and Formula One itself officially voted to pass changes to the power unit rules that caused so much drama lately. The surprising part is that Mercedes voted yes too. They agree with the other teams who want to close what looked like a big advantage for Mercedes. People close to it say Mercedes is okay with this because they can still pass the new test and might keep a huge edge, not just this year, but for the future too. There's also a developing situation in the Middle East that's making everyone pay attention to what it means for the start of the Formula One season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you enjoy this, and subscribe if you're new here. As always, huge congrats to Charles and Alexandra. They officially got married today. I don't have pictures yet, I don't know, but people spotted the ceremony anyway. So yeah, congrats to those two. We knew they were engaged for a while. I guess it makes sense to do it before the season kicks off. But we have to start here because today there's this developing situation in the Middle East. Let's just leave it there for now. We've seen this kind of thing before. This is a picture you guys might remember from 2022. You can see the W13 there with the zero pods, and this is when a missile hit Saudi Arabia during practice. You could see it in the background of the track in Jeddah. Back then, there was a lot of talk about canceling the Grand Prix or calling off the weekend. That didn't happen in the end, everything was fine, but it was a big topic because trouble in that region seems to always be there to some degree. Hopefully, if any of you are in the Middle East right now or know people there, everyone stayed safe today. But this is a picture from an explosion, a missile strike in Bahrain. Because of that, there are consequences. As for what was supposed to happen in Bahrain over the next couple of days. Bahrain is a small country, and with retaliatory strikes and everything going on in ways you might not expect, this is apparently where that strike I showed you happened. I can't confirm or deny it, but Bahrain is small. If you look on Google Maps, the Grand Prix circuit is down here, so yeah, as I say, it's a small country, so it's not going to be a million miles away. People were saying that strike hit about a kilometer from where a lot of people were staying during the Bahrain test. This could have major effects on the season because if things in the Middle East keep going like this, the Bahrain Grand Prix is about 40 days away or so. It's not super far, it's just over a month from today, so there are lots of implications. We go Australia, China, Japan, then Bahrain into early April, and we'll see what the situation looks like then. There are bigger implications for the start of the season too, because you might think it's good we're not starting in Bahrain this time, which is true, but it doesn't mean things are easy to fix for Melbourne. We'll talk about why in a second. There was supposed to be a Pirelli tire test, but because of the situation, it looks like that's been cancelled. That's the current talk from people like Thomas Maha and others, that it'll be called off for now, maybe because of travel problems too. This is a screenshot from a few hours ago, but overnight, once it was clear what was happening in Iran and other places, the airspace around Iran got really quiet. And it's not just Iran, it's the other countries along that coastline nearby too. Airlines are being careful to avoid trouble. Because of that, Dubai International Airport was at a total standstill at least an hour or so ago, and I don't remember the last time that happened. We can see Bahrain and the other countries here. Right now, no flights in or out of that part of the Middle East. This matters because teams are transporting stuff from Europe to the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. We're about a week away from qualifying on Saturday. Tomorrow, well, the week tomorrow here in the UK, is the race early in the morning, but equipment is on its way. Normally it goes through Doha in Qatar or Dubai or something like that. That's not possible right now. So we hear equipment delays are not just possible, but very likely. There might be some backup plans like sending through Singapore or Hong Kong or whatever, but that's not easy to fix logistically. The FIA and Formula One management gave a statement today. They said our next 3 races are in Australia, China, Japan, not the Middle East. Those races are still a number of weeks away. As always, we closely monitor any situation like this and work closely with the relevant authorities. So they don't say a ton, but they do say they see it, they're watching, and they know it could be a problem. Luckily for Formula One, the first few races aren't in the Middle East like they have been in recent years. This is an ongoing thing teams will have to handle. Depending on who you ask, this will cause problems for Melbourne, or it won't. According to Soy Motor, a Spanish source, several Formula 2 teams had their equipment stuck because of airport closures in the Middle East, and people suspect Formula One teams might be in the same situation. Worries are growing that some gear might not get to Melbourne on time. Of course, lots of drivers are starting their travel today or tomorrow so they can get to Australia, adjust to the time difference, and race on the weekend. Teams will have to figure out workarounds. People like Dessa say yes, the situation is concerning, but it should be okay since it's 40 days away. For now, it's not a big issue. Flights to Melbourne with stops in the Middle East got cancelled, so team people and others can't leave today and are waiting for a plan B from logistics, probably Hong Kong, Singapore, or something similar. But the equipment is already there, no problems seen because we saw pictures a couple days ago of gear being loaded into Melbourne. So most teams in Formula One itself are probably fine, but it's not an ideal situation at all. A few other quick updates from today. Yesterday we talked about Newey versus Honda with some blaming going both ways over the Aston Martin mess. That caused a couple issues. What I said yesterday was that Newey wanted this design where the battery, this orange part here, sits over 2 layers. The more usual way is just putting the ice straight into the battery. Kind of rough, but it works. Newey wanted a tighter setup with the battery layered over 2 levels. Just wanted to show what that looks like and maybe why it could have benefits, but it also brings problems. There's a feeling Honda maybe told Newey, okay, we can do that, but it caused trouble. Maybe if they'd stuck with the simpler version where Newey had to compromise more with the Aston Martin chassis, they'd be better off now. Hard to say for sure. What we know is they're in a tough spot, and Adrian Newey is the top guy. The tricky part for Newey is he has to design the car, keep good relations with Honda, but the responsibility stops with him. He's the team principal and managing technical partner. Is he going to do all the media stuff? No, they've got Pedro de la Rosa doing a lot of that, and Jenson Button as ambassador. So maybe there's room there. The point is Newey still calls the shots, but with his focus on designing and fixing issues, maybe it makes sense to bring someone else in to help organize things better. There's a feeling Aston hired tons of people fast, mixing them into departments, and making sure everyone works well together might have been too much given how quickly they brought in top staff the last few years. Is Newey, with everything else on his plate, the right person to fix that? That's why some say could Horner come back. We think Horner is interested in buying into Alpine and being principal there, but it's possible something similar could happen at Aston Martin. Horner would want a ton of control, and Lawrence Stroll might not give that up completely. He still wants final say. But if things at Aston get more desperate, it makes more sense to maybe just hand Horner the keys and let him sort it, whatever it takes. We know Newey and Horner had some bad blood, but it seems patched up now. Apparently they even went to a Coldplay concert or something in the off-season. I think that was reported somewhere, so maybe there's hope there. We have 3 big changes coming next season in Formula One. 2 you might call small, the third is huge. But which ones feel small is up for debate. First is Monaco. Last year, they brought in the mandatory 2 pit stops for the Grand Prix. Did it really change anything? No. Did it create weird strategies like pitting on lap 1, going long, waiting for a safety car? Yes, it made some chaos, but it didn't stop it being a procession where no one could overtake. So I don't see the point in keeping that mandatory 2-stop rule. It's just annoying, confusing for fans who need it explained, and it didn't deliver much. You guys might disagree. Maybe you need to run it a few times to see. But yeah, the mandatory 2-stop rule is gone for next season. That's one official change. The other small one, just before the big one, this third change is Q3 going from 12 minutes to 13 minutes. That's kind of weird because now there are 22 cars on the grid. Q1 still drops from 22 to 16, 6 eliminated, still 18 minutes. Q2 drops from 16 to 10 for Q3 as usual, 15 minutes as usual. It used to be nice round numbers, 18, 15, 12. Now Q3 is an odd 13 minutes instead of 12. Not totally sure why they did this. In Q3, you usually only get time for 2 real runs anyway, either 2 new sets of tires or whatever. Was anyone complaining it was too short? I don't mind. It probably just means drivers sit in the garage an extra minute. So that's the decision they made. But the major one, after all the drama lately, is about the compression ratio of these power units. This story has been building for a while. At first it sounded like a rumor, then it got clear it was real. Mercedes found a way to push the compression ratio past the allowed 16:1. There's been tons of debate on how to change the rules here. It used to be 18-1 was required, and teams didn't push much beyond because it caused too many problems. The rules allowed 18-1, so there wasn't huge gain in going over. Now it's down to 16.1, and teams want to get closer to 18 again. We think Mercedes found a way, maybe not full 18, maybe 16.3 or something. Theories flew around. Is it thermal expansion? A secret slot in the cylinder that fills under certain conditions but seals when pressure is high to boost compression? Mercedes said no, our car is legal. We worked with the FIA a long time on these engines, don't know what everyone's talking about. Other teams were mad. This is unfair, we need a level field to start the season. Audi, Honda especially weren't happy. Ferrari too. Red Bull, we think because some engineers like Ben Hodgkinson went from Mercedes to Red Bull, heard about it, tried to copy but couldn't quite get the same effect, so they basically told on Mercedes. It went public and they voted against it. The feeling was 4 manufacturers besides Mercedes would vote for changes to how compression ratio is measured, making Mercedes's engine illegal. Those 4 would vote yes, Mercedes no, FIA probably yes, Formula One probably yes, Mercedes would lose eventually. But it turns out Mercedes was actually fine with the change. Like we said a couple days ago, they were ready to approve it. Now there's a new compromise that got approved, and Mercedes approved it too. That's the key thing. Originally, the change was set for August 1st, now it's June 1st. So instead of around race 13 or 14, it's race 8 in Monaco when the compression ratio measurement changes. The rule stays the same, can't be more than 16.0 measured at, and that's where the gray area was. Until May 31st, it's measured at ambient room temperature. From June 1st, it changes. It'll also be measured at a higher temp of 130 degrees. And from 2027, it'll only be measured at that higher temperature. No more cold testing at all. This is still not measuring during actual running, and that's still debated. Maybe with sensors they could test while running, but changing that much would need every power unit maker to agree, not just 4 or 5. I bet if you asked Mercedes about full running measurement, they'd say no way. But for now, it's tested hotter, closer to operating temps. Operating temp probably won't go over 200 degrees, likely higher than 130 degrees, but it's in the ballpark. Way more relevant than cold 20-degree testing. It was such an obvious gray area that it's surprising other teams didn't push for this sooner. But the big thing is Mercedes agreed to it unanimously. And here's why Toto and Mercedes might be happy. Senior insiders told BBC Sport and Andrew Benson that the Mercedes engine passes both new tests. It passes at ambient and it passes at this new higher, almost operating 130 degrees temp. It still meets the limit, so it's a really interesting G-twist. Toto and Mercedes will say this was a small thing. Other teams complained over nothing, no real advantage. Toto says maybe a couple horsepower here or there, but no big deal. Do we believe them? Are Mercedes engineers just that smart? They get serious performance while running, but pass the static hot test and cold test too? We don't fully know. The conclusion is either Mercedes got away with something and locked in a lasting advantage. The other teams tried to fix it, but Mercedes is happy. So maybe the edge stays and others suffer this season. Or Toto is telling the truth. It really wasn't a big advantage, and the other teams worried for nothing. To me, those are the only 2 real possibilities. Either Mercedes secured an edge that helps them for years until others force another rule change, or it wasn't serious to begin with. So let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments. That's where we'll leave it today. It's Saturday, no more Fridays until Grand Prix days start, no more Saturdays really until Albert Park for the first race. Hopefully everything goes smooth. Hit like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. 1.9's fast.